does start very quietly indeed, but bear with it.
Hey, so wrapping up my full coverage with a brief look at the group's recordings for the John Peel Show. A substantial body of work, 24 sessions, 26 years, almost 100 tracks. Not giving this some kind of consideration would be criminal. If you're not au fait with Peel sessions, they were a series of live studio recordings, minimal overdubs for the late John Peel's long-running BBC radio show. Alternate takes, cover versions, one-offs. A Peel session was both a great honour and an opportunity to promote your latest release, to document work in progress, or to just have a little fun, whilst bagging a little BBC appearance money along the way. So 12 Peel highlights from the fall, showcasing a few favourites and some interesting historical curios. First up, from the band's second session for John, our first broadcast on the 6th of December 1978, Put Away. Still months at this time until the release of the debut album Live at the Witch Trials, here's one to highlight the furious pace the band was setting. Put Away wouldn't appear on record until the follow-up album Dragnet much later the following year, by which time the group's lineup had been radically overhauled, meaning a chance to hear the Witch Trials fall playing a Dragnet number, none of that album's production mud, and perked up by Martin Brammer's chorused guitar and Yvonne Paulette's keyboard interjections. A fascinating what-if listen that really serves to highlight the contribution of non-Mark members in shaping the full sound. And at 2, from the same session, Mess of My, a song that would be condemned to bootlegs and live tapes, massively varying quality, were it not for this version. Never getting a studio outing, this is as good as it got for Mess of My, a mix of grating, snarky hyperliteracy with oddball psychedelic touches that would have seen it sit very comfortably on Witch Trials. Onwards to 1980, the Fall's third session from the 24th of September that year, and New Puritan. Like Mess of My, another doomed number, only cropping up on subsequent releases as a much curtailed, grubby cassette recording. This, the session version, is incredible. As good as anything from Grotesque or Slate's, it's prime Fall. Mark's vocal, manic, hectoring, dripping with vitriol. The guitars, they melt and coalesce into lumpy, ugly, chordal clusters. The Hanley Brothers rhythm section mixing punctuated explosive drums and a needling cattle prod bass. In at the deep end for drummer Paul Hanley, New Puritan was his audition track. Former drummer Mike Lee had never been able to find a suitable pattern for the song. Paul got it first time, securing his spot in the group for the next few years. At 4, session 4, the end of March 1981, I've got C&C Hassel Schmuck. This session straddles the release timeline of the previous year's Grotesque album, the shortly to be released Slate's EP, and 1982's Hex Induction Hour. All feature on this session, but Hassel Schmuck gets the nod here for A, showing the humorous side of the Fall, and B, highlighting the anything goes nature of the Peel session format. Bands could get playful without having to keep a watchful eye on the studio clock. Riding high in the pop charts circa this session were Coast to Coast, with their rock and roll novelty dance throwback, Do the Hucklebuck. The Fall's tribute sees them divert from the grimy, lopsided hobble of C&CS mithering into a galloping off-key mutation of the Hucklebuck. That's the Hassel Schmuck. The transition from post-punk gloom to dance band karaoke is anything but seamless, but I guess that's kind of the point. Next session, September, later that year, we get a taster of the following year's Hex album in the form of At 5, Deer Park. The album pairs Deer Park with another number, that's Fortress. Fortress kicking things off, softening the listener up for the relentless organ-propelled nosebleed of Deer Park. No such foreplay here, straight in with the hard stuff. It's a bracingly raw take on the album version, matching its energy levels but with a teeth-loosening buzz to the keyboards that smarts in a very pleasing way. The session take is a little lighter in the drums, featuring as it does only Paul Hanley and not the Hanley Burns Hydra that propels the album version. As ever, different days, different takes. There's much to enjoy in both versions. At 6, Where's Bricks? From the March 1983 session, I've chosen Garden. This session's take on Perverted by Language's Eat Yourself Fitter runs the album take very close. But for me, there's clear water between Studio Garden and Session Garden. The Peel version runs considerably longer, just topping the 10-minute mark, despite being audibly pacier. And it maintains a tense, edgy momentum over its full runtime, which the studio take just can't hang with. The core band were road hardened by this point in time, and the strengthening Hanley Burns telepathy behind the kits means a well-captured live take, like Garden, crushes the album version. Skipping forward to session 8, that's from the 3rd of June 1985, and at 7, Couldn't Get Ahead. Very little to separate this session's songs from their album counterparts, but there's a definite edge to this take on their soon-to-be-released single. It hails out of the speakers straight from the off. The guitars feel bigger, twangier. The single version, included on non-vinyl releases of This Nation's Saving Grace, is a little more polite in comparison, which is not what you want in a single, particularly one trading on its breakneck velocity in the way that Couldn't Get Ahead does. How do we feel about B-sides? Usually an opportunity for a bit of fun or experimentation. Well, marry that with the guilt-free, this one's on the BBC, rationale that underpinned the Peel sessions, and you should be onto a winner. And you'd be right. At 8, from the group's 11th session broadcast in May of 1987, Australians in Europe. An extra track on the 12-inch release of the Hit the North single. It's been subsequently included on expanded versions of the Friends Experiment album, and is a highlight of that late 80s pop period where they were scratching at the doors of the big boy charts. Just a great example of that sparky, repetitive, hooky style they adopted peak Bricks, and the Peel version is a doozy, just a little more bug-eyed and manic than the original, poking fun at Nick Cave and his fellow countrymen holing up in Berlin at that time. This session packed in another superior take on a contemporaneous B-side. That's Victoria's Flip, Twister, but it can't match Australians for sheer energy and excitement. At 9, a track I included in my full part 1 video, so I won't dawdle too much on this one. It's Cab It Up. Session 12 was recorded just as the Curious Orange album was hitting the shops, and following the band's performances with a full dance company on stage at the Sadler's Wells Theatre, meaning they had been mercilessly drilled and were at their absolute peak. And that comes through loud and clear. The version of Cab It Up recorded for Peel is a monster take on the studio version. It's relentless stuff. The immediate post-Bricks years on Phonogram Records were reasonably stable and home to pick 10 in this list. From the group's 14th Peel session, airing in March of 1991, I've plumped for Shiftworks, Idiot, Joy, Showland. A pleasingly incensed take on a song that finds very little worth in the Manchester bands of the period. Mark takes pot shots at the idiot groups with no shape or form, whilst the Fall behind him lean into the spikier mood with relish. Craig Scanlan's guitar in particular sports a vindictive edge, which the album version just doesn't have. And the following year, February in fact, I've got from session number 15, Kimball. A Peel session recording deemed good enough for a single release. Kimball is a loose adaptation of Lee Scratch Perry's Kimball the Nimble. The group had toyed with reggae on Curious Orange's title track, but this is a much more organic take on the dub template. In a lot of ways, a natural fit for Mark's instinctive cut-up style, and a kind of dry run for the Why Are People Grudgeful single, which also saw a release in 1993. Comparing those, I prefer the thrown-off feel of Kimball a lot more. And as full cover versions go, it's great fun. I'll close here with a big old leap from 1992 to 2004, the band's final session before John's death later that year. For me, slim pickings in that interim period in terms of songs genuinely bettering their recorded counterparts. Some of the country on the click stuff, yeah, maybe. But this one, definitely from August 2004, Blindness. Not much to add here that I haven't already covered in part 2 of my fall primer. It's just the definitive version of the song. It's shorter, it's meaner, it's more intense. It might well be the last truly great fall song. So for it to reach its most evolved form in the shape of its Peel Session version is kind of fitting. John's patronage of the Fall was instrumental in bringing them to a wider audience, I think. That was certainly my experience anyway. So as a parting gift to the faithful and an unwitting farewell to John, Blindness is the perfect track to close with here.
There's never been anything like this and never will be again, I think.
So with regards to the Fall, I think I'm done. Really had to just get in with this because the Peel Sessions, it's just such a huge body of work. It's kind of the equivalent of 10 or 12 studio albums, really. I felt that I had to cover it in some way, and this kind of little taster should be enough to get you started. I've no doubt the Fall fan community will have different choices to mine. Such is the nature of the beast. Let's talk about it down below. As ever, you know the drill. Thanks very much. If you've got this far, please think about giving the video a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. They're both really good ways to get the channel out to new viewers. And I'll leave it there. Yeah, please do take care, and I hope to see you back here very, very soon. Bye for now.